For centuries, witch hunters roamed across Europe, driven by a mix of superstition, paranoia, and a fervent, but often baffling, religious zeal. At times, their motives were as mundane as politics, yet the consequences were anything but trivial. Tens of thousands of people were executed under the charge of witchcraft. The accused were often vulnerable, frightened old women, caught in a web of fear and scapegoating. However, every now and then, a witch trial would veer into the extraordinary, uncovering tales far stranger than anyone could ever imagine. Hi, I'm Alina. Welcome back to my channel. Thiess was an elderly man from 17th century Latvia who shocked a courtroom by boldly proclaiming he was part of a local band of werewolves. But these weren't the sinister creatures of dark folklore. According to Thiess, werewolves weren't servants of evil and couldn't tolerate the devil. Instead, he claimed they were the hounds of God, warriors on a divine mission. Thiess explained that on specific days of the year, the spirits of werewolves would embark on a supernatural journey to a mysterious so-called place beyond the sea. In their wolf forms, they would descend into hell to do battle with the devil himself. The stakes were high. If the werewolves failed, the devil would steal the harvest, bringing ruin to the community. Armed with iron rods, these hounds of God would fight fiercely, ultimately beating the devil and ensuring the prosperity of the crops. However, Thiess warned any delay in their journey would result in hell's gates being locked against them, and the harvest would be lost. Thiess had a personal adversary in these hellish battles, a diseased witch named Kresniks. This formidable foe had once broken Thiess's nose with a broom during one of the encounters in the underworld. Despite intense questioning, Thiess stuck to his story, insisting that werewolves were loyal servants of the church. In a dramatic outburst, he even declared that werewolves were closer to God than the local priests. For his unusual testimony, Thiess was sentenced to 10 lashes, but his claims didn't fade into obscurity. In the 20th century, historians and folklorists revisited this account, noting striking similarities between his stories and those of the benandanti, meaning good walkers in Southern European folklore, who also battled supernatural forces to protect their community. The benandanti, or good walkers, were part of an ancient and mysterious dream cult that came to light during the Inquisition in Italy's Friuli region. These individuals played a pivotal role in their communities, engaging in otherworldly battles to safeguard the harvest. Their rituals unfolded during the Ember Days, periods marking seasonal transitions. On these nights, the benandanti entered trances so deep they resembled death itself. Their spirits travel into a mystical valley at the edge of existence. In this ethereal realm, they faced off against malevolent witch spirits in a grand otherworldly struggle to protect their village's crops. One benandanti described the journey as dreamlike and surreal. A quote, "I had the impression there were many of us together as though in a haze, but we did not know one another. It felt as if we moved through the air like smoke and crossed over water like smoke." The benandanti were believed to be marked at birth, often identified by being born with a cowl, a thin membrane over their heads, seen as a sign of their destiny. Their presence was deeply embedded in local beliefs, and their role was taken so seriously that any benandanti who refused to undertake the trance on Ember Days faced punishment from fellow villagers. Remarkably, these walkers saw their spiritual battles as entirely compatible with Christianity. They were astonished, even offended, when accused by the church in engaging in unchristian practices. For them, their nightly journeys were not witchcraft, but a sacred duty to protect their community. The Taltos were Hungarian mystics, believed to be the remnants of the ancient pre-Christian shamans of Hungary. They were renowned for their extraordinary abilities, particularly their capacity to leave their physical bodies and embark on spiritual journeys to far-off realms, even to heaven itself. One Taltos proudly claimed she had spent 9 days lying as if dead while conversing with God. What truly set the Taltos apart, however, were their legendary battles in the sky. With their bodies remained in a deep trance, their spirits would transform into powerful forms: bulls, stallions, fiery balls, fiery wheels, or discs of metal. These spectral warriors would ascend into the heavens to engage in thunderous duels. These clashes, they believed, held immense significance, as the outcome determined the good fortune of their communities. Many Taltos proudly displayed scars and wounds they attributed to these celestial combats. One Taltos, testifying before a court, described this practice as an ancient tradition. She recounted tales of legions of Taltos once waging wars in the skies for the empire. She even claimed that as late as 1725 there were around 700 Taltos across the country, and declared, "The light of their flag is shining across the world." Despite their mistaken cultural importance, the Taltos faced severe persecution in the 18th century. Authorities viewed them with suspicion and fear, leading to brutal crackdowns. Many were tortured and executed, their ancient traditions and wisdom forced into obscurity. In 1587, a bewildered inquisitor in Sicily sent a haunting warning. A new sect of witches has come into being. These so-called Sicilian witches left the Inquisition baffled. Unlike the Church's terrifying tales of devil worship, these witches claimed their mystical connections came not from encounters with Satan, but through dreams of ethereal beings they called the ladies from outside. These enigmatic ladies were described as strikingly beautiful, though with a peculiar feature: the feet of cats or other animals. These beings were largely benevolent, however, with one unsettling quirk: they couldn't bear any mention of God or the Virgin Mary. The ladies from outside served under a queen, often referred to as the Eastern Lady, who ruled alongside her young consort, a teenage boy. Encounters with these beings frequently ended in sexual encounters, which participants described as extraordinary. The inquisitors documented one woman's vivid account of her first journey into the otherworldly realm. She recounted attending what seemed to be a witch's sabbath, but unlike the dark and sinister scenes painted by the church, this gathering was brimming with beauty and joy. She spoke of a vast plain where a large platform stood, adorned with 2 grand chairs. A striking young man dressed in red occupied one, while an exquisitely beautiful woman sat on the other. Introduced as the king and queen of this realm, the newcomers were told to renounce worship of God and the Virgin Mary. Instead, they were required to swear loyalty to the king as their god, and the queen as their lady, offering both body and soul. Once this allegiance was sworn, the mood shifted to celebration. Tables laden with food and drink appeared, and the gathering became a vibrant scene of feasting, dancing, and revelry. Eventually, the festivities turned intimate, as the men and women, including the storyteller herself, engaged in passionate encounters remarkable in their intensity and frequency. For the Inquisition, this strange and alluring narrative shattered their rigid framework of demonic witchcraft, leaving them deeply unsettled by this mysterious and unconventional sect. In 9th century France, a mysterious group known as the tempestarii held sway over both weather and the fears of the people. The storm wizards were said to wield their power through an alliance with the enigmatic people of Magonia, beings who supposedly sailed the skies in ethereal ships, much like earthly vessels navigate the seas. The Magonians and the tempestarii shared a dark pact. The Magonians hired these storm wizards as their agents on Earth. In turn, the tempestarii exhorted local farmers, demanding payment under threat of devastation. Should a farmer refuse to pay, the Magonians would unleash a storm, destroying crops and the livelihoods in a flash of fury from above. This strange and sinister alliance is most famously recorded in a polemic written by Bishop Egobard of Lyon. Frustrated and scandalized, the bishop denounced the belief in Magonia and the tempestarii, particularly because villagers were willing to part with their money for the wizard's protection, but claimed poverty when it came time to pay their tithes to the church. The belief in these aerial mariners and their magical allies persisted far beyond the 9th century. Gervase of Tilbury, historian writing in the 12th century, recounted a chilling tale that seemed to bring this legend to life. He described how an anchor inexplicably attached to a rope descending from the clouds became lodged in a church. As astonished onlookers gathered below, a man climbed down the rope, moving strangely as though swimming through water. The crowd seized him, but the story took a tragic turn. The man appeared to suffocate in the very air they breathed, dying soon after. These tales of storm wizards and sky sailors blurred the lines between folklore, superstition, and the mysteries of the natural world, offering a fascinating glimpse into the medieval imagination. Kresniks were legendary spirit warriors from Istria, a region now part of modern-day Slovenia and Croatia. Much like the mystical benandanti, Kresniks were marked at birth by a cowl, a rare and auspicious sign that foretold their destiny. Their calling to serve came at significant ages, 7, 18, or 21, marking pivotal moments in their journey. These shamanic warriors possessed the extraordinary ability to leave their physical bodies while asleep. Their spirits transformed into animals, to wage battle against malevolent forces, such as witches and vampires. Intriguingly, their spirit form often began as a humble fly before shifting into a fearsome beast for the fight, when the stakes were especially high and the realm faced dire threats from powerful spirits. Kresniks united for a supernatural mission. They would cross the sea in fragile eggshells, gathering their strength for aerial battles above the famed St. Mark's Square in Venice, a place steeped in eerie energy, as any tourist who has walked its shadowed alleys might attest. In Istrian lore, every Kresnik had a dark counterpart, known as a good luck. These werewolf-like antagonists were believed to be born into the same clan, creating an eternal rivalry. The Kresnik and good luck spirits frequently clashed in animal form, their battles determining the fate and fortune of their family. To prevent a suspected good luck from wreaking havoc even after death, their bodies were sometimes buried with severe tendons, ensuring they could not rise again to hunt the living. Konrad Stokelin, a 16th century peasant from a remote alpine village, found himself at the center of a dark and tragic tale. In 1586, he accused an elderly local woman of witchcraft, claiming that the phantoms of the night, a mysterious group of spirits who soared through the skies above his village, had revealed her to be a witch. But Konrad's story didn't end there. He described extraordinary experiences of leaving his physical body to travel to otherworldly realms with these phantoms. According to him, his journey into the spirit world began in a haunting yet transformative way. One night, the ghost of a deceased friend appeared before him, commanding Konrad to repent for his sins. Hearing this spectral warning, Konrad claimed he was soon visited by a radiant, angelic figure marked by a red cross on its forehead. This being, he said, taught him how to separate his spirit from his body and introduce him to the phantoms. Guided by the spirits, Konrad believed he had been granted the power to uncover hidden witches lurking in his village. Yet, his revelations took a shocking turn when his own testimony led to his arrest, not as a witness but as a witch himself. His accounts of spirit travel and supernatural encounters raised suspicions, and in 1587 Konrad met a grim fate: execution for witchcraft. Konrad's story is a chilling reminder of how belief, fear, and superstition intertwined during the witch trials of early modern Europe, ensnaring even those who thought themselves as immune. In the late 16th century, the town of Saint Claude in eastern France was gripped by a chilling werewolf panic. Fear and suspicion spread like wildfire, leading to tragic consequences. At least one unfortunate local was stoned to death by her neighbors accused of attacking children while in the form of a wolf. Others faced brutal trials, where torture coerced confessions of dark deeds and unthinkable transformation. Among the accused was Jacques Bocquet, a local healer often referred to as a Cunning man. Bocquet claimed that while his body remained at home, his spirit attended with sinister witches' Sabbaths. Another suspect recounted sleeping into prolonged trances on significant days, like Monday and Thursday. He described these episodes as exhausting, leaving him drained for days. Perhaps the most vivid confession came from Pierre Gandillon, who described a horrifying transformation into a werewolf. According to Gandillon, during these episodes, he would fall into a rigid cataleptic state, lying motionless on his bed. He believed the devil would cloak his soul in a wolf's skin, enabling him to travel to wicked gatherings. The fear of such tales and the hysteria they fueled made St. Claude a harrowing place during this dark chapter of history. In Croatia, there existed a fascinating tradition involving individuals known as Velenikas, who were believed to possess the extraordinary ability to communicate with fairies. Villa. Among the many accounts of their activities, one particularly vivid testimony has endured through time. In 1660, a young Velenica in her 20s was interrogated by the authorities of the Republic of Dubrovnik. She claimed to be in contact with a mystical being, so-called Aunt Fairy, who would appear to her disguised as a nun. According to the young woman, Aunt Fairy instructed her to gather a specific pair of roots whenever she wished to summon her presence. Upon doing so, the fairy would appear, offering wisdom on healing and guidance how to recognize malevolent witches. This testimony, however, did not go unnoticed. It led to a witchcraft trial. Despite such dangers, the practices of Velenikas persisted in other parts of Croatia. One priest, reflecting on the mysterious activities of his time, wrote with a mix of concern and resignation. Certainly not in public, but there is a witchcraft of some sort. They tie knots through some evil spells cast to forward marriage or obstruct it. They do not apprehend that by collaborating with the devil they bring evil. This note underscores the complex interplay between folklore, belief, and societal fears in a time where the boundaries between magic and heresy were precariously thin. In 1390, the Inquisition of Milan interrogated two wealthy women, Sibylla and Purina, who confessed to being part of a secretive cult. They gathered regularly in the homes of affluent Milanese merchants. According to their testimonies, the gatherings were presided over by a mysterious woman known as the Madonna Oriente, or the Lady of the East, and sometimes referred to as the Signora del Gioco, or the Lady of the Game. The most remarkable part of each gathering was a feast featuring beef, during which the bones and hides were carefully preserved. At the end of the meal, the enigmatic lady would tap the bones with a stick, magically bringing the cows back to life. However, the resurrected animals were far from healthy, as the testimony claimed they were unfit for work. This strange act of resurrection bears a striking resemblance of elements of European mythology, particularly the figure of Thor, who is associated with restoring life and vitality. Furthermore, the emphasis on bones echoes Siberian shamanistic beliefs, where it is thought that the souls reside in the bones, leading some writers to speculate that Sibylla and Purina might have been involved in an underground movement tied to ancient European shamanic traditions. However, this theory is contentious. The Inquisition, ultimately skeptical of their claims, deemed their testimonies unreliable and freed the women. Yet, only a few years later, both were rearrested and executed for witchcraft, marking a tragic end to a mysterious and curious chapter in Milan's history. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!